My girlfriend used my savings to start a business with another man. So I waited until they failed, then took legal control and left them with nothing. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I've spent years working 2 jobs just to build some financial security. Most days, I'd clock out from my 9 to 5, grab a quick dinner, then head straight to a late shift at the warehouse. I barely slept, but I kept reminding myself, this is temporary. Every dollar I saved was a step closer to owning something real. My friends spent their weekends partying or buying new gadgets. I stayed home balancing spreadsheets, convincing myself discipline would pay off one day. Chloe used to tell me she admired that about me. She'd look at me with this bright spark in her eyes and say, "You're different from the guys who waste their lives waiting for luck. You make your own." I believed her. She was ambitious too, always talking about doing something big together. We'd sit on my tiny apartment balcony, sipping cheap wine, and she'd paint pictures of our future. A business we'd run side by side, financial freedom, vacations we'd earn. I'd never felt that kind of shared purpose with anyone before. She made me feel like all my sacrifice finally meant something, like I wasn't just grinding for myself anymore, but for us. I started to picture her in every version of my future. Then one night, she leaned over her laptop, excitement flickering across her face. "Babe, what if we didn't wait years to start?" she asked. "What if we invested now, while the market's perfect for it?" Her tone was so persuasive, her enthusiasm contagious. She said she'd been researching business models, something about e-commerce, boutique branding, scalable profits. I hesitated, telling her I needed more time to learn. She just smiled, brushing my hand with hers. "You always say timing is everything," she whispered. "Maybe this is our time." I didn't realize it then, but that was the first crack forming in the life I'd built so carefully. A few days later, Chloe showed up at my place with her laptop and a look of pure excitement. "You have to see this," she said, pulling me to the couch. She opened a pitch deck she'd put together, bright slides full of product photos, slogans, and a logo she'd designed herself. "I've been talking to someone who knows how to get this off the ground," she said. "His name's Ethan. He's helped a bunch of startups go viral." I frowned. "Who's Ethan?" She waved it off. "Just a business guy I met at a networking event. He's got experience in marketing and sourcing suppliers. Don't worry, babe. He's strictly professional." I wanted to believe her. I really did. The presentation looked solid, and her energy was infectious. "So, what exactly are you thinking?" I asked. "A boutique," she said, eyes lighting up. "Sustainable fashion, all online. Ethan handles logistics and I run branding. You'd be our investor, the backbone. It'll be our dream together." My heart swelled at the thought. Our dream. It sounded perfect. She showed me projections, potential profits, even a business registration form she'd partially filled out. I was nervous. Years of savings weren't easy to part with, but she kissed my cheek and said, "You trust me, right?" Of course I did. She'd stood by me when I was struggling, believed in me when no one else did. So when she said she needed funding right away to secure suppliers, I wired the money. Nearly everything I'd worked for vanished in a few clicks. Later that night, as we celebrated with takeout and cheap champagne, I noticed Ethan's name listed first on the contract she'd emailed me. "Why is his name before ours?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Chloe laughed softly. "Oh, it's just how the template prints. Don't overthink it, babe." But as I watched her sip her drink, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this deal wasn't as perfect as she made it sound. At first, I told myself the distance was normal. Starting a business takes time and focus. But soon, Chloe and Ethan were spending every evening together, working late. She'd come home with that exhausted but glowing expression, like she was living some secret adventure I wasn't invited to. "Don't wait up for me tonight," she'd say, grabbing her keys. "Ethan and I have to finalize supplier deals." I tried to stay supportive. "Want me to come help? I can go over the numbers." She laughed. "No offense, babe, but you're not exactly the creative type. Let me handle this part." Her words stung more than I wanted to admit. Still, I told myself to trust her. This was our dream, after all. But each time I asked for updates, she brushed me off. "You wouldn't understand the details," she said one night, her tone sharp. "Just be patient." Patience. That was all I had left, apparently. A week later, I decided to surprise her. I stopped by the small office space she'd rented downtown. My name was on the lease, after all. The blinds were half closed, and through the slats, I saw Chloe leaning over Ethan's desk, laughing, touching his arm. It wasn't the kind of laugh you share with a business partner. I froze at the door, my chest tightening. She spotted me through the glass and waved like nothing was wrong. "Babe, you should have called," she said when she stepped outside, her smile too bright. "Looked like you two were having fun," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, don't start. You're reading into things. Ethan's like a brother to me." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But that night, lying awake beside her, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling that the woman I trusted most was slowly building a life that didn't include me. The weeks that followed felt like watching a movie of my own life, except I wasn't in the main role anymore. Chloe was always too busy for dinner, too tired to talk, too distracted to even look at me when she got home. Her phone was glued to her hand, her laughter softer, reserved for messages I wasn't meant to see. One evening, I set the table with her favorite pasta, candles flickering between us. When she finally walked in, she barely glanced at it. "Babe, I told you I had a meeting tonight," she sighed, kicking off her heels. "Just thought we could eat together," I said quietly. She dropped her bag on the counter, scrolling through her phone. "Ethan and I are planning the launch campaign. This isn't the time to play house." Her tone sliced through me. That phrase, playhouse, echoed long after she disappeared into the shower. I stared at the untouched dinner, the wax dripping down the candles, realizing how invisible I'd become in my own home. Money was running out fast. Every time I asked about returns, Chloe changed the subject. "You'll see results soon," she said, smiling that practiced smile. But her eyes, they didn't match her voice anymore. One night, I woke up to whispers. She was on the balcony, phone pressed to her ear. Her tone was low, intimate. "I told you, he's not suspicious," she said. My chest went cold. He's not suspicious. I stayed frozen in bed, listening until the call ended. When she returned, I pretended to be asleep, my heart beat loud in my ears. The next morning, she kissed my forehead before leaving. "Don't wait up tonight," she murmured. I smiled weakly, but inside, something shifted. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the betrayal I was starting to suspect, or the hope that maybe, somehow, I was still wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept circling back to her words. "He's not suspicious." I kept replaying them, each repetition stabbing deeper. Finally, I got out of bed, opened my laptop, and started digging. If this business was truly ours, there had to be some record tying my name to it. I logged into the government registry site and typed the company name Chloe had chosen, Valora Collective. The search results popped up instantly, and my breath caught. Listed under registered owners were Chloe Harrison and Ethan Marks. My name wasn't there, Not even once. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to change, for some explanation to appear. It didn't. The betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. Every sleepless night, every dollar, every dream we'd built together had been a setup. When she came home the next morning, I confronted her. "Why isn't my name on the registration?" I asked, my voice shaking. She froze, then laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh my God, is that what this is about? You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" I snapped. "You used my savings, Chloe. You promised this was ours." She crossed her arms, her tone suddenly cold. "You don't understand how business works. You said you wanted to invest, so you invested. You're not an owner. You're a funder. Be proud. You helped make something real." Her words felt rehearsed, practiced. The kind you use when you've already told yourself the lie enough times to believe it. "So this whole thing," I said quietly, "was never about us, was it?" She didn't answer. She just grabbed her keys and left. I stood there in silence, staring at the door she'd just walked through. My entire future, the one I thought we shared, had turned out to be a story she'd written for herself, and I was just the idiot who financed the first chapter. After that day, everything crumbled. Chloe moved out within a week, claiming she needed space to focus on the business. Translation: she was done pretending. I didn't fight her. I didn't have the strength. My savings were gone, my relationship destroyed, and my pride left in ashes. I rented a tiny room above a noisy cafe, peeling paint, flickering lights, the smell of burnt espresso drifting through the vents. At night, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning endlessly, wondering how I'd been so blind. My friends tried to help, but their sympathy only deepened the humiliation. "You'll bounce back," they said. "You're too smart to let one girl ruin you." They didn't understand. It wasn't just about her. It was about me. Everything I believed in, trust, love, partnership, had turned out to be a scam. Sometimes I'd walk by their office, unable to stop myself. Through the glass windows, I could see Chloe and Ethan laughing, celebrating small wins, their logo shining proudly above them. Valora Collective. My dream, my money, their success. Once, Ethan kissed her cheek, and she didn't flinch away. That image burned itself into me. I started avoiding people altogether. My phone buzzed constantly with bills, overdue payments, reminders of my stupidity. I sold my car, canceled my gym membership, even stopped visiting my parents because I couldn't face their disappointment. One night, standing outside that office, I saw Chloe unlock the door, wearing a new designer coat, probably paid for with my money. My chest tightened, rage and heartbreak twisting together until I could barely breathe. I realized then, I wasn't just broke, I was hollow. She hadn't only stolen my savings, she'd taken my belief that hard work and loyalty actually meant something, and that kind of loss doesn't show up in bank statements. Months passed, each one blending into the next. I stopped counting the days after Chloe left. Survival became routine. Wake up, work whatever freelance gigs I could find, sleep, repeat. But underneath the exhaustion, something sharp was forming. Not just anger, but clarity. One night, while scrolling through old files, I stumbled upon the original partnership form Chloe had emailed me months ago. The one I'd signed before, sending her the money. I opened it, reading every line like my life depended on it. And there it was, a clause buried deep in the fine print, stating that initial investors retained partial ownership until full repayment or written dissolution. Chloe never filed that dissolution. For the first time in months, I felt my pulse quicken, not from panic, but possibility. I printed the document and took it to my friend Daniel, a small business lawyer who owed me a favor. He read it twice, his eyebrows lifting. "Dude, she screwed up," he said. "Legally, you're still part owner. And if they haven't repaid your capital, you have rights to the assets. Even if they changed the branding, the paperwork?" I asked. Daniel smirked. "Especially then. That's misrepresentation. You've got leverage." Leverage. The word echoed in my head all night. I hadn't felt that in months. The sense that maybe I wasn't powerless after all. I didn't rush. I kept my head down, my emotions locked tight. But every day after work, I studied. Contracts, ownership law, corporate structure. I was done being the fool who trusted blindly. By the end of that week, I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to confront Chloe. Not yet. No, this time I'd wait. Just like she waited for me to hand her everything. I'd wait until the right moment to take it all back. From that moment on, I lived two lives. By day, I was the quiet freelancer trying to rebuild from scratch. By night, I became something else. Calculated, patient, deliberate. Every spare minute went into learning the system that had once chewed me up. I started collecting everything. Email threads, wire transfers, screenshots of messages where Chloe had called it our business. I even downloaded archived versions of Valora Collective's website, where my name had once appeared briefly under founding partner. It was evidence, piece by piece, building a silent case she didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, I watched their empire start to wobble. Orders delayed, vendors complaining on social media, and customers demanding refunds. Ethan's flashy marketing couldn't cover the cracks. I knew their kind. They thrived on hype, not substance. And hype always burns fast. I'd visit their page occasionally, watching Chloe post motivational quotes about hustle and resilience, pretending everything was perfect. I almost pitied her. Almost. Daniel and I spent nights drafting the legal paperwork quietly. "If you move too soon, she'll bury the evidence," he warned. "Wait until they default or the company slips." So I waited. I smiled at the world while keeping a storm bottled inside me. When I checked the company filings again a few months later, I noticed something small, but critical. Valora had missed 2 quarterly tax payments. Ethan had apparently taken out short-term loans in Chloe's name. Their dream business was drowning, and they were too proud to admit it. That was my moment. I started preparing the claim to reassert my ownership and gain control of all remaining assets. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was reclamation. I wasn't the naive investor she tricked. Not anymore. I was the quiet threat she didn't see coming, and she was about to learn what it felt like to lose everything she built on someone else's back. By early spring, Valora Collective was cracking from the inside. The signs were everywhere. Late shipments, angry customer reviews, investors pulling out. Their Instagram, once a constant stream of polished photos, turned desperate. "We're rebranding soon," Chloe wrote in one post, trying to sound confident. But I could read between the lines. They were drowning. Then one night, my phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Chloe, hey, can we talk? It's about the business." I stared at the screen for a full minute before replying. "Me? Sure. When?" "Chloe, tomorrow. I could really use your advice." Advice. That word made me laugh out loud. Bitter, cold, sharp. She'd taken my money, my trust, my future. And now, when her empire was collapsing, she came crawling back. When we met at a coffee shop, she looked different. Tired, fragile. Her eyes ringed with exhaustion. "Ethan's been making bad decisions," she said, voice trembling. "He promised he'd fix things, but now we're in debt. I think he's been lying to me." I just listened, sipping my coffee slowly. That must be hard, I said evenly. But you built this, didn't you? You and Ethan? Tears welled in her eyes. Please don't be cruel. I made mistakes, but you were the one person I could count on. Maybe we could fix this, together. Her words used to melt me. Now they just sounded hollow. I'll think about it, I said. As she walked away, I opened my laptop and sent Daniel a message. It's time. We filed the ownership claim that night. Quiet, surgical, final. For the first time since she'd betrayed me, I felt calm. Not vengeful, not angry. Just still. Because this time, I wasn't the fool she played. I was the reckoning she never saw coming. The next few weeks moved like a slow, inevitable storm. Chloe had no idea what was coming. She was too busy scrambling to save her failing company, posting hollow pep talks about resilience, while creditors circled like vultures. Meanwhile, Daniel and I were finalizing the paperwork, gathering every document that proved my investment, ownership, and her misrepresentation. The day we filed the claim, I remember the strange calm that settled over me. It wasn't triumph, just quiet certainty. The court hearing was brief. Chloe and Ethan didn't even show up. Their attorney tried to argue lack of standing, but the evidence was airtight. My name was still legally tied to the business. Their failure to repay my capital meant the ownership reverted fully to me. When the judge's gavel struck, it felt like a lifetime of weight lifted from my shoulders. Mr. Carter, the clerk said, congratulations. You now hold full legal control of Valora Collective. Later that night, Chloe showed up at my apartment, mascara smudged, eyes swollen. You took everything, she whispered. I stared at her, unmoved. No, Chloe, you took everything. I just took it back. She tried to reach for my arm, voice trembling. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I stepped back. Neither did I, but here we are. She broke down then, crying, pleading for another chance. But I'd already closed that door long before she knocked. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I simply walked back inside and shut the door. Behind it, I finally exhaled. Years of anger, humiliation, and heartbreak fading into silence. For the first time, I wasn't the man who lost everything. I was the man who learned how to take it back, without ever raising his voice. Owning Valora Collective felt nothing like I expected. There was no rush of victory, no cinematic moment of revenge, just silence. The kind that settles in after a long storm. When Daniel handed me the final papers confirming full ownership, I didn't celebrate. I just stared at the company name, the same name that once mocked me, and thought, now what? The business was in ruins when I took control. Debts, unpaid invoices, and a shattered reputation. Ethan vanished the moment things went public, deleting his socials, cutting contact, leaving Chloe to face the wreckage. She sent one final text. You win. Hope you're happy. But happiness wasn't what I felt. It was clarity. I started from the ground up, rebranding, paying off vendors, rebuilding relationships one by one. It took months, but slowly, Valora began to breathe again. I turned it into what it was always supposed to be, an honest business built on integrity, not manipulation. I even renamed it Haven and Rise, because that's what it had become for me, a place to rebuild, to rise from what was broken. Every so often, I'd see Chloe's name pop up online. A new venture here, a motivational post there. She was still chasing shortcuts, still trying to manufacture success. I didn't hate her anymore. I just pitied her. One day she sent another message. Chloe, can we talk? I think about you a lot. Maybe we could start over. I typed for a long time before replying. Me. I already did, without you. I hit send and never looked back. Because closure doesn't come from hearing sorry. It comes from realizing you no longer need to. And for the first time in years, I truly felt free. It's strange how revenge doesn't look the way you imagine. I always thought it would come with fireworks, some dramatic confrontation, or a line that would make her finally understand what she'd done to me. But when it arrived, it was quiet, peaceful even. Months after taking control, I visited the old Valora office, now renovated under the new name Haven and Rise. The once gaudy walls were repainted in soft gray, the shelves stocked with products made by small artisans I'd partnered with, real people chasing real dreams. The hum of the workspace felt calm, grounded, honest. I stood by the window, looking out at the street below, where I used to watch Chloe and Ethan laugh under neon signs with my money in their pockets. The irony wasn't lost on me. Now I owned the building they once bragged about. That evening, as I locked the office, a familiar voice called my name. I turned and saw Chloe standing across the street. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but in spirit. She didn't say anything, just stared for a moment before walking away. And for once, I didn't feel anger, just closure. I didn't post about my success. I didn't brag. I didn't need the world to know that the man she underestimated had outlasted her. My revenge was quieter, the kind that doesn't scream. It simply exists. Now every morning, I walk into that same building with a sense of calm I never thought I'd earn again. No bitterness, no hate, just a quiet pride in knowing I survived something meant to destroy me. Chloe took my money, Ethan took my trust, but I took back my life and built something stronger with what they left behind. And that, I've learned, is the sweetest kind of revenge. The one that doesn't need witnesses,